Okay, so today is session number 20 in semester 1 on brain diffusion category. So last week we started the subsection application, the centralizer of the adjoint subcategory. So this subsection will be dedicated to compute the centralizer of adjoint subcategory, and for that we will need the new notion introduced by Gelake-Nikcic, notion of commutator. So we will start by providing the definition of a commutator. And you will see this notion of commutator is a bit dual in some sense to the notion of adjoint. You will see why. So let K be a fusion subcategory. Fusion category of a braided fusion category C. Oh, we don't need braided of a fusion category C. The commutator of K denoted K with C all like that, included in C. It's a fusion subcategory of C generated by the simple object X such that X tensor X star is in K. Is the fusion subcategory generated by all simple object X in C such that X tensor X star is in K. So, as I said, this notion is dual to adjoint. And in fact, you can go from one to the other in some sense, in some specific sense, in particular in the non-degenerate case, you can go from one to the other faithfully by applying the centralizer. So remember, so why I am saying that it is a dual, so remember the adjoint of a fusion subcategory K denoted like that is the fusion subcategory generated by that, where X is in K, okay? So here X is in K and you get something. But here we are interested in the simple such that this is in K. So you see, it is, in fact, so these two notions are in that sense dual to each other, and we will explain how we can relate one with the other using the notion of centralizer. So we can reformulate this definition of commutator as follows. So this is the largest fusion subcategory R in C, for which the adjoint of R is included in K. Okay. And the following inclusion are straightforward, are immediate. So the adjoint of the commutator is included in K, which is included in the commutator of the adjoint. So let me explain quickly why this is true. So you take an element in the commutator, and then, so commutator, you take, for example, we can regard that as the level of a simple object. So this is of this form. So here, it is of this form. So X, the simple object here are X such that this is in K. So in particular, because this is in K, this, so the adjoint of K, this is in the adjoint of that. So this is in K, so this is trivial. And for the second inclusion, so you take an element in the adjoint. So an element, so you take an element, a simple object in K, and you take this one of this form. So you are here, and now wait, so now we want to show this is equal to this. So you take a simple object in K. So wait. Now we take an element here. So what is an element here? It's an element in. This is of this form with X in K. So this is here. And now, if you add that, you need, in particular, you need X such that, in particular, if you take an X such that this is of this form, which is here, then it will be inside. In particular, so you just need to take X in K and it works. So that's why you have this inclusion. Maybe I was a bit confused, but in fact, you just need to think 1 minute, and this is clear inclusion. Okay, so example from group theory. So you take something of this form, rep of G with G, a finite group. Finite group. Then so we know, we already mentioned several times, but any fusion subcategory of rep G is of the form rep of G quotiented by a normal subgroup. Then any fusion subcategory K of C is of the form K equal rep G divided by N for some normal subgroup N. And what this example will be about what is the commutator of K, of this K, for some normal subgroup K, A, N in G. So in this case, the commutator is given by, so K commutator is representation G divided by the commutator of G with the normal subgroup N. And if you want to see the details of that, it's in Gelaki, Mikshik, 2008. Recall, because we compare the commutator with the adjoint. Recall that rep G adjoint is equal to rep G divided by the center of G. So K adjoint is rep of, we can write this way, which is maybe not very elegant, but I'm not sure we can simplify. Anyway, okay. Okay, so now, as promised, we can connect commutators and adjoint using centralizer as follow. So this was first established in Gelaki-Mikshik. So now we are in braided fusion category. So we will state a proposition, and the first part of the proposition was in Gelaki-Mikshik in the pseudo-unitary case. So the first part of the following proposition established in Gelaki-Mikshik proposition 6.6. For the pseudo-unitary case. Case where C pseudo-unitary. Proposition 325. So we will state that, so for a fusion subcategory in a braided fusion category, the centralizer of the adjoint is equal to the commutator of the centralizer. So let K be a fusion subcategory of a braided fusion category C. Then so the centralizer of the adjoint is equal to the commutator of the centralizer. And in fact, both are equal to the projective centralizer of K. In fact, both coincide with the projective centralizer of K. Okay, so proof. The proof is not very long, it's quite short. But there is an exercise inside, in fact, two exercises. So by definition, in fact, we will use the proposition 322. So if you remember, proposition 322 say that if x, y are simple objects, then x centralize y tensor y star, if and if x tensor x star centralize y, if and if x and y projectively centralize. Okay. So we will use this. So the simple object in the centralizer of the adjoint are the simple object in C such that centralize y tensor y star for every y in the simple in K. So here I write first exercise. Show that X centralize the simple component of y tensor y star for all y in here. Because if you really want this exercise, it is if you really want to follow the definition of centralizer here. We need to care about the simple component of that. So we know, yeah. So we need to show that because by definition of adjoint, it's generated by the simple component of that. So it's not enough to say that it centralizes that. We also need to centralize every simple component of that. So this is the first exercise, but it should not be complicated fully. Next. So similarly, so you see now we have a first component of proposition 322. We have this centralized that. Okay. Similarly, and similarly, this is another exercise. So simple object in the commutator of the adjoint are those x, so are the simple in X, such that X tensor X star centralize every simple y in K. Centralize every like that. So now you are really in the case of the proposition 322. So the result, remember that by 322, this centralize that if and only if this, so wait, there is a mistake. What is y? Wait. So we know that this centralize that if and if. So it should be y here. Let me check. 325. No, it's okay. No. I was confused by the way I wrote that, but it's okay. This y such that this centralizes that. So, okay. So you have this by the proposition before, 322, this centralizes that if only if this centralizes that, if only if x and y projectively centralize. So we are done with this proposition. So the result then follow from proposition 322. Okay, next. So you see, you have two possibilities here. You can you can do that, adjoint prime, but you can also look at that. And we will see that in fact, this, if you look at the other possibility, the equality will hold only in the non-degenerate case. Otherwise, you have just an inclusion. Corollary 326. Let K be a fusion subcategory braided fusion category. C, then, so the adjoint of the centralizer is included in the centralizer of the commutator. And the equality holds in the non-degenerate case. If C is non-degenerate, then the equality hold, which means that K all like okay. Okay, so proof of that. So we will use the previous proposition. From the previous proposition, we have the following. We know that. So we'll use the previous proposition with applied to K prime. Applied to K prime. So the previous proposition applied to K prime. So previous proposition, we know that K prime adjoint K prime, K centralizer. And then again centralizer. We know that this is equal to K double prime commutator. So that's just the immediate application of the previous proposition to K prime. Now, we know that K is included in K double centralizer. So when you apply the commutator to that, it reverses the inclusion. So you get something like that. Okay. So you have that. Now you apply the centralizer. So wait. So we know if you apply again, so implying, so you know that you have the adjoint of the centralizer. This is included here. You just apply 2 times the centralizer for the same reason. You apply this inequality, this inclusion to this K, to this. So you just, it's okay. And then, you have this inclusion. So when you apply the centralizer reverse again the inclusion. So you get something like that. Okay. So you get the inclusion. Wanted to prove this is included in this. So now what happened in the non-degenerate case? Why we get equality in the non-degenerate case? This is clear because in the non-degenerate case, this is an equality. So you have equality everywhere, and also this is an equality for the same reason. So you apply the centralizer on equality, you get an equality. So it's this is the reason why in the non-degenerate case, you get an equality. If C is non-degenerate, then the centralizer of C is VEC, and by the theorem 310.2, we get that the double centralizer is equal to double centralizer of D is equal to D. So for any fusion subcategory D in C. And so, as I said, all the previous inclusion are equality. Therefore, in this case, so in the non-degenerate case, the previous inclusion must be equality. Qualities. And we are done. Okay, so you have to be careful. One way, so one combination is always equality. The centralizer of the adjoint is equal to the commutator of the centralizer. This is always an equality. But for the adjoint of the centralizer, it's just included in the centralizer of the commutator. So there is no equality in general, but the equality holds in the non-degenerate case. Okay. Now, application. Relation between adjoint and pointed subcategory. Corollary. Very famous result. Corollary 327. If C is non-degenerate, then the centralizer of the adjoint subcategory of C is equal to the pointed subcategory, where CPT, included in C, is a fusion subcategory generated by the invertible object. By invertible, you can understand that the Froben's point dimension of the object is equal to 1, or you can also understand that the evaluation and the evaluation map is an invertible also. And the other combination is also true. So CPT, PT for pointed, is the fusion, in fact, CPT is the maximal pointed fusion subcategory of C. You can say that also. Fusion subcategory generated by the invertible object of C. So, another word. Those with Frobenius point dimension equal 1. So CPT is the maximal pointed subcategory, fusion subcategory. Fusion subcategory of C. So you have this identity, and the other combination hold also, because it's non-degenerate and because we will apply the previous proposition. Moreover, CP, so the centralizer of the pointed subcategory is the adjoint subcategory also. So that's okay. And the proof will apply the previous proposition. The previous, not proposition 326, but proposition, but not corollary 326, but proposition 325. So this is really the previous proposition. So apply proposition 325 with K equals C. So you take everything. We know it is non-degenerate. Non-degenerate. We have. So the centralizer of C is VEC. So if you apply the previous proposition, so you are here with K equals C. So C add commutator is VEC VEC that. So C add centralizer is VEC commutator. C add centralizer is the commutator of vec. Okay. But remember the definition of, so remember vec is the trivial fusion subcategory generated by the unit element. But by definition of commutator, 323. The commutator of vec is just the pointed subcategory. You need all the categories. So I will write this as an exercise, but you consider all the simple objects in C such that all the simple object X in C such that X tensor X star is equal to the unit. So in particular, it implies that if you apply the Frobius point dimension, you get that it should be 1, so it's invertible, so it's in CPT, and the converse is true for any pointed, for any invertible element, X tensor X star is equal to the unit. So, so it's okay. Next. So for the other, so what if we apply this identity? So vec add. Okay, so let me just write what is in my note, and then I will make a comment maybe. So for the other identity, you just okay, you just apply the first identity. So the second identity. Follow from the first. And theorem 310 double second part. So why? So 310, so the second part of 310 was that if C, the centralizer of C is indeed then D double star, D double centralizer is equal to D. Okay, so here we have so we know that so you already proved that just now. So this implies that this double centralizer equal to that, but this is equal to C hat because you have C, the centralizer of C is included in C add, since centralizer of C is vec because it's non-degenerate. So you apply this thing here. Okay. So what happened? So so this is the end of this. Let me write it here. End of the proof. What if we apply the corollary in the non-degenerate case? This equality. So what if you put C here? C prime is vec, and this is vec. The adjoint of vec is vec. We have vec equal to the commutator of C. So you get vec equal C commutator centralizer. The commutator. Anyway, commutator centralizer. So it should be, yeah, I guess this should be equal to that. The commutator, yeah, of course. Because, yeah, the commutator of C is equal to C itself because any C, for any simple object in C, the C tensor C star is in C, so it's obvious. Okay, so I guess here we should take K equal vec, then K vec prime is C. Yeah. So you have C add equal vec commutator prime. So C add equal CPT prime, so this, yeah. So you can apply this corollary with K equal vec. Yeah. Alternatively, apply corollary 326 with K equal vec. Okay, so pause. Okay. So we proved corollary 327. Okay, so this corollary 327 can be in this corollary you can replace non-degenerate by slightly degenerate, which means that the centralizer of C is not vec but S-vec. And you have the same statement with S-vec instead of vec, so you replace degenerate by slightly degenerate. So in corollary 327, the assumption is centralizer of C is vec. And so we will establish the same result for centralizer of C is S-vec, but we will need the following lemma due to Muger. So to establish a similar result when the centralizer of C is isomorphic to S-vec, which is called slightly degenerate. We need the following result due to Muger. Following lemma from Muger 2000 lemma 3.4. So I guess we will restate and reprove this lemma here. 328. So in fact, this lemma, you will see that so if you have the centralizer of C is S-vec, so S-vec is appointed, but there's two simple objects, one trivial, one non-trivial. And the lemma saying that the tensor product with this simple object, non-trivial simple object in S-vec, cannot be so if you make the tensor product of x with this element, it cannot be isomorphic to x. So it is not how to say this tensor not an automorphism of the identity functor. If you want to make to write the thing more correctly. So let C be a braided fusion category. Braided fusion category. And let delta is the centralizer. Be an invertible object generating SVEC as a braided fusion category. So let C be a braided fusion category and let delta in the centralizer of C be an invertible object such that the fusion subcategory generated by delta is braided equivalent to SVEC. Then, so delta tensor X is not isomorphic to X for every simple X in C. Here, simple is important, of course. If you don't take simple, you can have an isomorphism, but it will play the role of, obviously, you have a delta X plus delta X is isomorphic to delta X. Anyway, you understand the point. So simple is important here. Okay, proof. So the proof. So we will use some. Remember when we define the left and right trace and left and right quantum dimension, depending on the choice of an isomorphism between X and X double star. We, in the braided case, there is a canonical isomorphism between X and X double star. We denoted UX, U index X. And so we will consider this U index X and the associated dimension to make the proof. So in section 242, we define the positive quantum dimension D plus positive. No, it's not positive. This is not positive in the sense of D plus. It's not a positive number. The quantum dimension D plus X trace plus of identity of X, where the trace depends on the choice of an isomorphism. So trace depend on a choice of isomorphism phi X from X to X double star. So remember, in the breaded case, we have a canonical phi x denoted ux. We now show that if phi x is taken to be the canonical isomorphism, so ux like that, we start from x and then there is a braiding like that from x to x double star. You see, so here it's x double star, here it's x star x. So you see it's okay. It's okay. So so ux from x to x double star. So ux x to x double star. So this was introduced in equation 12. If you do that, what do you get? Then you get the following that we will prove. So if you choose this isomorphism, then you take the dimension associated to this isomorphism, and you get that because quantum dimension of x is non-zero, this proves that this delta tensor x and x cannot be isomorphic. So let's prove this equation 45. So to prove 45, note that so x centralized delta by definition because delta is in the centralizer of C. So for any simple object x in C, it centralizes delta. Note that since x centralize delta, now if you apply the formula 13 involving the isomorphism U, so let me write, I will recall the formula 13, which is ux tensor uy equal ux tensor y composed with the double braiding, cxy composed with cyx, cyx composed with cxy. So now we know that you take y equal delta. We know that y and x centralize each other, so the double braiding is the identity, and you get that imply u delta tensor x is equal to u delta tensor ux, which is, let me take more space. This is equal to minus identity of delta tensor ux. So let me explain why u delta is minus identity of delta. Okay, so why that? Why u delta equal minus identity delta. By definition of ux and svec, remember svec also, definition of svec. So the answer is that by definition of ux, written here, and svec, and the fact that u double star equal delta double star equal delta star equal delta. Because remember, svec is two objects. So the dual of a non-trivial object is non-trivial. So because there are only one non-trivial object, the non-trivial object must be self-dual. Okay. So then, if you want to go into more details, you get that. So this is equal to minus identity by definition of svec. So that's okay. And then you have change again the color. U delta is equal to something like that. But this is equal to, because we know that the braiding is minus identity. So you just get like that. So the braiding is replaced by minus identity. And by zigzag relation, this is minus identity of delta. Okay. So you get that. And then we have comma, and the equation 45 follow. So why? So let me take this color here for that. And next, you have the dimension of delta tensor x is equal to. So by definition, the dimension depends on the isomorphism. So it's this way. U delta tensor x, then you close like that. Okay, so we know that this is equal to, so U delta tensor x is minus identity tensor ux. So this is minus identity tensor ux, like that. So you close. So this is equal to minus for delta d plus x. And the last exercise here need to show that this is equal to 1. Okay. So you get really equation 45. Yeah. So I keep it as an exercise. Okay, so we get equation 45, and now Now we can finish the proof of this lemma. Since the quantum dimension is non-zero, equation 45 imply that delta tensor X is not isomorphic to X because isomorphic objects have same quantum dimension. And the equation 45 says that they are not the same quantum dimension, they are minus. Because this is non-zero, this cannot be equal to that because there is a minus sign. So they cannot be isomorphic, and this is what we wanted to prove. And now we can deduce the relation between adjoint and pointed with centralizer in the slightly degenerated case. Proposition 329. So this is what I said. So let's see B, a braided fusion category such that the centralizer of C is isomorphic to SVEC, so as I said, slightly degenerated. Then the centralizer of the adjoint is the pointed subcategory, and the centralizer of the pointed subcategory is the adjoint, but here, so I was a little bit too enthusiastic. In the slightly degenerate case, the other part you need to add this SVEC here. Okay, so what I said before was maybe false. So this equality hold exactly as for the degenerate, non-degenerate case. So the slightly degenerate case here, it's as for the non-degenerate case, but the non-degenerate case has this equality, but for the slightly degenerate case, you need to add the SVEC. Yeah, like that. This is how you generalize this in the slightly degenerate case. So the proof as follow. So proposition, we use proposition 325. So by proposition 325, which state the following. And that for a simple object, simple object X in C belong to the centralizer of the adjoint of C, belong to the centralizer of the adjoint of C if and only if it belongs to the commutator of the centralizer of C. In other words, if and only if by definition, X tensor X star is in the centralizer of C. Now, by the previous lemma. By lemma 328. We know that X tensor X star contain no non-trivial simple object of SVEC. And I will explain why. X tensor X star cannot contain the non-trivial simple object of SVEC. Why? Because if delta is a subobject of X, so the fact that delta is a subobject of X tensor X star, this is equivalent to X to be a subobject of delta tensor X by Frobenius reciprocity. Frobenius reciprocity. But okay, so this is equivalent to X equal delta tensor X by applying the Frobenius point dimension, because we know the Frobenius point dimension of that is equal to this one. So if this is included, so that should be equal. So by Frobenius point dimension argument. But we know by the previous lemma that they are not isomorphic. But X is not isomorphic to delta tensor X by lemma 328. Okay. So X tensor X star cannot contain this non-trivial simple object in SVEC. So we have here X tensor X star is in SVEC, but it cannot be the non-trivial. So it is in VEC. Therefore, X tensor X star is in the centralizer of C if and only if X tensor X star is in VEC, if and only if X is pointed, as we already mentioned that. So we started from that, and we get pointed. So thus the centralizer of the adjoint is the pointed subcategory. Now, finally. Combining this with the corollary 3.11, we obtain the result. So let me explain. Combining with corollary 3.11, we obtain. So you have C, the commutator, the centralizer of CPT, which is C double centralizer. And this is here we apply the corollary. So this is, remember this corollary is saying that a double centralizer is like that. So this is exactly what we wanted to prove. Okay. So a remark saying that this identity, so we mentioned for SVEC, but in fact, it works more generally when the centralizer of C is pointed and the group associated is cyclic. But we will not need no proof, will not prove that. But the proof should be similar. So statement 46 also hold for any braided fusion category. Category C, in which centralizer of C is pointed and the associated group is cyclic. The group cyclic. Okay. Cyclic. Now, so new subsection. We will talk about some pairing. Which will permit to get a better understanding of the corollary 327. So this corollary here, we will provide a more explicit formulation of this corollary in terms of a pairing. Okay. 3, 3, 4. A useful pairing. Okay. Okay. So we now present a more explicit formulation of corollary 327. Present a more explicit formulation of corollary 327. Okay. So we will take an invertible object in a braided fusion category because the pointed part is a part generated by the invertible object, and we will make a tensor automorphism of the identity functor using the trick that the co-evaluation map of an invertible object is invertible. So, invertible object X in the braided fusion category. C, define a tensor automorphism. We will explain why the following is a tensor automorphism. We will prove that. Alpha X of the identity functor. Identity functor via the following composition. So the alpha X is the identity functor. So you need to fix X and Y. You have an isomorphism between Y and Y. So Y, it will be a natural isomorphism, etc. So, and I will draw the picture associated to that. So coef of X map to Y tensor X star, and then you apply some double braiding. X, Y compose Y, X tensor identity X star. And Y tensor, the inverse of the coevaluation map. Okay. So the picture is the following. You start from Y. U identity coevaluation map. So, and then double braiding. And then the inverse of the evaluation map. So be careful. Here you have co-evaluation of X, and here you have the inverse of the co-evaluation of X. This is possible because X is invertible, otherwise this makes no sense. But this, be careful, this may not be the evaluation map of X. Okay. So what you are doing here is just you take, so if you want to redraw the picture, you have the identity of Y, and you want to put in between this closed loop from X. So if you do something like that, for example, so it's like that. This is what you are doing. This is a picture. Yeah, you have the identity, and you have something in three dimensions, which is around like that. Okay. So this is our. We will prove that this is a tensor automorphism of the identity functor. In the following lemma. So here this will be proved in the following lemma. Proved in next lemma. So lemma 321. So you take an invertible object, in a braided fusion category. Fusion category C. Then following all. So first point, alpha x, as defined before, is a tensor automorphism of the identity functor. The tensor automorphism of the identity functor. Second point, the map alpha from the invertible object to the group of tensor automorphism of the identity functor is a group homomorphism. So this is trivial from the first one. Homomorphism. And last point, in the non-degenerate case, alpha is an isomorphism. Is an isomorphism. Okay. So I will have no time to finish the proof of that today. So the part 1 and 2 follow directly from the definition, but tomorrow I will explain in more details. Part 1 and 2 follow directly from the definition. Why? Alors, let us see why the first hold. So a tensor automorphism. So it's a natural transformation which is an isomorphism and which is monoidal. And I guess for the additivity, it should be trivial. So we only need to prove monoidality. So natural transformation. So we have the natural transformation is the following, but it follows from the natural transformation of the braiding. So you have f from y to y prime, and then you have this thing. Like that. This is equal to like that. F. Here you just apply the naturality of the braiding. So in fact, this way of drawing the picture is confusing because you don't see, you should be drawing like that. You don't see what is a coevaluation map, what is so by so here just apply the naturality of the braiding. By naturality of the braiding. And be careful, the picture like that. May be confusing. It is just like that. So if you prefer, it should be like that. So you have first breeding. So let me write directly. So you have one breeding, another breeding, and here identity, exactly as before, but yeah. Now you see where is the breeding, where is the evaluation and co-evaluation map. So this picture here is confusing. It is a simplified way to write that. So if you write this way, you see that you can move this the other side by applying the naturality of the breeding here, here, and then here. Okay. So I will stop here. Tomorrow I will start by so why it is an isomorphism. So I can write that. It will take 1 minute. Isomorphism. It's an isomorphism because it is a composition of isomorphism. It's an isomorphism as a composition of isomorphism, since for an invertible object, the co-evaluation map is invertible. Coev X is isomorphism when X invertible. So it's really a composition of invertible. And tomorrow we will start by saying why it is tensor. So monoidal enough, just monoidal, because the additivity should be trivial. And the right tensor. So let me write why it is monoidal. 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 Okay, so we will see that tomorrow. We will stop here. Okay.